Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce myself. My name is Kirk Wilson, Kirkwilson, common spelling. I am the fire chief for the Rockton Fire Protection District here in Rockton, Illinois. First of all, it's been a very catastrophic day for our community. We've lost a very well-known business, and our hearts are with those employees that are currently unemployed. I will give you a brief synopsis of the events that taken place today, and I'll start with the initial call. This morning we received a call at 7 a.m. for smoke in the building at 1165 Prairie Hill Road, which is the Chemtool or Lubrizol manufacturing plant. And what they do there is manufacture lubricants, and basically a very large industrial type building, and also a lot of product, a lot of lubricants and things like that were stored in this building as well. So after we received the call, our first engine got on scene and reported heavy fire conditions in the building, and we also had fire coming through the roof. So we had a pretty volatile fire going on at that time, and we tried to make an initial attack. Unfortunately, our events failed, and due to firefighter safety and the safety of all the employees and personnel, we got everybody back and we went to a defensive type fire. At that point, we had concerns on the environmental impact if we dumped copious amounts of water on this incident. So we stopped some of the water suppression, some of the fire suppression, and we went ahead and let the product burn off. Due to the fact that the Rock River sits just west of Chemtool, about 500 yards, we were extremely concerned that that would turn into an environmental challenge later on down the road. So right now, as we speak, we're asking residents within the 1 mile radius of the incident to evacuate. We put that order out this morning. I understand that many people have questions on when they're going to be able to go home. Right now, we don't have that answer. However, we're continuing monitoring the situation and doing air quality checks, things of that nature, in the surrounding area, in downtown Rockton, and over towards Roscoe. The evacuation point at which we set this morning was in Roscoe, Illinois. It was at the Roscoe Middle School, thank you. I'm not sure how many evacuees are currently at that location. However, we do have local officials working with those folks as well. We have many agencies here. We have local, state, and federal agencies currently on the scene working to mitigate this incident. We have the EPA, both federal and state EPA on location. And again, we are effortlessly, continuously monitoring the air quality. So tonight there are some concerns on the weather and the actual the drop of the smoke plume. So we're going to continue to monitor that as well. So at this time, I would like to introduce Chief Michelle Pankow. Chief Pankow is from the City of Rockford Fire Department, who is also on the scene assisting with hazardous materials and also suppression. So Chief Pankow.
Good evening, everyone. In addition to the fire department, my role here is also as emergency management. The Mayor of Rockford was unable to attend, but I'm happy to step in for him and provide you a little bit of perspective on what we're doing from the Emergency Operations Center. Earlier this morning, the City of Rockford Fire Department, the City of Rockford, Winnebago County, and numerous local agencies activated our Winnebago County Emergency Operations Center to support Chief Wilson and the Rockton Fire Department in response to this incident. The mayor has been in contact with the governor throughout the day, and we are thankful and extremely happy at the quick response from the state to support us locally and the resources that have already been provided. We'll continue to work through the Winnebago County EOC to support the operation here in response to the incident, and also to support the community. And we again thank everyone for their patience as we continue to work through this, and supporting the surrounding communities. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Alicia Tate-Nadeau. I am the director of the Illinois Emergency Management, representing Governor Pritzker. Early this morning, Governor Pritzker was notified of the incident that was occurring. In abundance of caution and to be proactive in nature, he directed me to activate the State Emergency Operations Center. And in doing so, we have the following state agencies that have been brought to bear. You have on ground today coordination with the federal EPA. You also have state EPA that is on site. The Illinois State Police is supporting. Department of Transportation. We also have Illinois Emergency Management that is working in public health. In coordination, what we are doing is we are focused on life safety. Our primary focus is to ensure that everyone in this area is safe and that we have a coordinated response. Every single person that is standing up here today is here in support of the incident commander, the gentleman that spoke to you earlier. Our intent is, again, to make sure that this response is as smoothly as possible. We have been in coordination and discussion with the facility owners to understand exactly what chemicals are there, and so we can make sure that we have the correct response. With that, unless you have any further questions for me, I will turn it over to Director Kim, who is the director of the Illinois EPA. Director Kim.
Thank you. Again, my name is John Kim, K-I-M. I'm director of the Illinois EPA. And first of all, I think we want to make sure that we note that on behalf of our agency, on behalf of the governor, we feel very deeply concerned about all the employees and displaced families that are going through this process right now. We're very concerned about their health, obviously. We're very concerned about the aftermath of what has happened at the facility, and so we're going to take every precaution that we can to err on the side of being overly protective and make sure that we are doing all the right things for the citizens of this area. So our agency, as Director Tate-Nadeau referenced, is part of the state's response to the situation. We will, our agency oversees the initial environmental impact, assists in making decisions in terms of how responses should be made, what protective measures should be put into place, and then we are also making sure that once the conditions have stabilized, that all proper steps are taken so that what remains is going to be properly addressed. If there is any kind of remediation that's needed, if there are any other kinds of corrective action that are needed at the facility, at the site, then we will oversee that and we will work with the responsible parties to make sure that that happens as well. We have been working closely with local officials, with other state agencies as noted, and with our partners with US EPA. We have had our emergency response staff responded as soon as we learned the severity of the fire, and our staff in our headquarters office and our field offices have been working to review field data to try and set up, help set up information so that we can review the modeling information that's been provided, to work with US EPA and other federal partners as we continue to provide assistance in determining what kind of steps need to be taken to, again, going forward, make sure that today, tonight, tomorrow, and in the days coming on, that the residents are all going to be protected and kept out of harm's way. And I'm going to turn it over now to Dr. Martell.
I'm Dr. Sandra Martell, S-A-N-D-R-A, and as a Mary, A-R-T-E-L-L. I'm the Public Health Administrator for Winnebago County. So first of all, I'd like to reiterate what every one of us has said, that we are first and foremost focused on life safety. and addressing the concerns to make sure that we mitigate the current existing conditions. As well, we went into the Emergency Operations Center. Our environmental health has been working with both the Illinois and the US EPA to mitigate what we've got. We've got an environmental concern of an immediate fire with chemicals, and then we have items that were not intended to burn. And so how do we protect our community? And from the beginning of this, whether you're talking about COVID-19 that many of you have met me through, we again are here to protect our community and maintain their life safety. So with that, the Emergency Operations Center is a coordinated response. I want to remind the public that we're asking their cooperation once again. So within that 1 mile, that we ask that you safely evacuate. And we are providing assistance through our partner agencies like the American Red Cross and the Salvation Army. If you are within 3 miles of the site, we are asking that you wear your face coverings, your face mask when out of doors. I know we just recently came out of the mitigations for COVID-19, but our masks are going to help prove protecting as well during all of this. And we ask that public that is not supposed to be in this area to refrain from coming in to the area. Remember, we are in a life safety active fire zone. And as much as curiosity wants you to come and take a look, we need you to cooperate once again to protect our community. And the other standpoint I want to say is we're getting a lot of postings in Facebook and emergency operations calls to the COVID-19 hotline. Please do not pick up waste that falls from the sky and related to the fire. We do not know what that waste contains. Please do not handle it with bare hands. Use a shovel, use gloves, and sequester it, meaning keep it separate from your household waste so that we know how to properly dispose of it. It's very important. We are reliant on our groundwater in this community, and keeping that safe is of utmost importance to us. I want to assure the public that everyone here is working diligently round the clock to address the changing situation, and will keep the public informed of that. And so with that, we will entertain any questions.
So a few hours ago, we were told that the air quality on the ground seems to be okay. Now it seems like we need to wear masks and we shouldn't touch this. Is there anything that changed about our air quality in the past few hours?
Right now, the air quality, as far as I'm being told by the state and federal EPA, the ground level is okay. What we're concerned with is particulates that may be in the air. So that's why Dr. Martell is asking anyone within, that radius to just put a mask on for your own safety.
Kind of precautionary?
Yeah, sure.
Just in case.
Absolutely.
And then you talked about that plume, overnight conditions, that plume coming down. Can you talk more about that?
So actually what we're going to do is we're going to continue to monitor that, and the state and federal EPA have set monitoring stations throughout the village of Rockton, and also on the west side of Rockton and over into the Roscoe area. So we want to continue to monitor those air quality samples, and if things change, then at that point in time, then we'll change on what we will do as far as any further evacuation or anything of that nature. So.
Well, Chief Wilson, you've been saying a 1 mile radius for evacuation. We got a press release earlier from the governor's office saying a 2 mile.
No, that's not correct. It's always been 1 mile.
Okay.
We started early this morning with the 1 mile radius. So any information, like I said, that you're seeing on Facebook, make sure it's coming from a reliable source, whether it be from the Winnebago County Emergency Operations Center or our Fire Protection District.
Chief, I know you were talking about having all the crews and the debris falling. Have you had any crews report back that any grass fires have gotten out of control? Or
Throughout the day, we've had several grass fires, but they've been contained just into that area. Behind Chemtool, there's an open field, but those have been taken care of, so those are being contained.
So no worries right now about
No.
running into...
Absolutely not. And just to give you an idea too, the actual fire itself is contained into one area, so there's no exposure problems to any other buildings or anything of that nature too.
What about the Rock River? Are you worried?
Absolutely, we're worried about it, and that's what our main concern is. So right now, we're monitoring that. We don't have any spillage in the Rock River or any kind of runoff. Again, and our environmental partners are keeping a close eye on that as well.
Dr. Martell, you talked about the need to wear masks if you're within 3 miles of the area. Given the nature of what's burning, what is your concern for what people could be taking into their lungs if they are not wearing masks?
So the question is regarding masking, and again, it's a layer of protection. At this point, because we're monitoring, it's a constantly evolving situation. We're learning more. That's why the monitors are out there. What starts at the beginning of the day is night and the dew fall. Again, that's why we're very concerned about that. So again, why not protect our lungs? We're extremely cautionary at this point. But the important part is, what can you as a community do to protect your own health? You can wear that face covering that protected you against COVID-19.
Given the nature of what's burning, are you concerned about carcinogens, things people inhaling that could be potentially dangerous either in the short term or the long term for them?
Well, we're concerned about any particulate matter at this point. Any of them can be a pulmonary irritant. So what we're talking about is a compromise in your immune system, people with asthma, people with underlying respiratory conditions. We must be extremely cautious about them breathing in any type of particulate matter.
Dr. Martell, Chemtool is part of that Tier 2 regulation. So can you tell me how that helps you guys when you're trying to figure out what chemicals are in the air?
Hi again, Alicia Tagnado from Illinois Emergency Management. So the Tier 2 chemicals that we're talking about are chemicals that we know are caustic in nature, and they are required to report, the facility is required to report those. So whenever this incident initially occurred, we ended up pulling that list to look at those so we knew exactly how much on an average day they had in the facility. And it begins to help folks like public health determine, you know, what are the precautions that we need to take to protect the public. It also is very critical whenever local fire and hazmat is on site. It helps them to identify how best to respond to the incident.
So what kind of chemicals then were in there that you're concerned about that make it Tier 2?
So there are a number of different chemicals that are in there. One of those is lead. The other ones is basically what is antifreeze, nitrogen, sulfuric acid, and a few others. Please understand that this is one of the largest facilities in the nation that has different oils. So whenever there's a bunch of different chemicals that are in there, one of the things that the chief looks at is to try to determine, whenever you have a fire of this nature, how do they all work together? And again, it all comes back to life safety. We want to make sure that if you wear your mask, if you have to be outside, we want you to make sure that you wear your mask. If you don't have to be in that area, we would encourage you to stay outside of the area.
Do you have any idea, have the people who are supposed to have evacuated, have they? Or have you guys gone door to door?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Have the people within that 1 mile radius who are supposed to evacuate, have they done so?
That I'm not aware of. The only ones that I know for sure that have been evacuated, Chief, do you have that? The 5 block radius from Chemtool, actually the law enforcement officers went door to door and made sure people in those immediate areas were evacuated.
How many people is that? Any guesstimate?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. Maybe 1,500 to 2,000.
And Chief, what message do you have for those who have been displaced in the community?
Be patient. We ask that the community be patient and try to work with your local firefighting community, and also the individuals standing behind me. I have the Rockton Police Chief and also the village president standing behind me as well, and I think they can also say the same message. Please be patient with us. We're going to continue to monitor this as the night goes on, and if we have any updates or if we have any further evacuation concerns, we will definitely get those out to you, and we will address the public as needed. So,
How will you be utilizing the National Guard, where we understand is responding?
So, great question. I believe your question is related to the Illinois Civil Support Team, which is a very unique capability that we have here in Illinois. They respond to any suspected chemical, biological, or radiological event. We have deployed them. They work very closely with the state weapons of mass destruction team. In other words, the state team that looks at chemicals. And together what they will be doing is 2 things. Number 1, they'll be working with EPA to conduct what we refer to as the plume model. That's to determine that area, that exclusion zone, and to validate that information. The second thing that they'll be doing is they'll be working with the air monitoring piece. Again, not in isolation, but in conjunction with EPA.
Can somebody explain the science behind how this isn't impacting the water or the air levels yet here on the ground? We're seeing this huge plume of smoke. How is it not registering here on the ground?
Do you want to?
Yeah. Go ahead. So that's a good question. We don't know what the impact is in the sense that it's helpful that we've got ground level monitors that are showing the levels that were mentioned. But what we are concerned about, as you noted, we've got a plume. And the way our agency goes at these kinds of issues, we break it up into air, land, and water. So air right now is the most pressing concern. And so the best way for us to make a determination as to how we should address that is to look at the monitoring data that's been referenced before. So it'll build a little bit upon that. So the civilian support team that works through Air National, or the Illinois National Guard, that's been a big help. And then US EPA, they've been providing two pieces of assistance. They have someone called a non-scene coordinator, which is sort of their emergency response person, and they assign somebody in situations like this where there's a need for federal coordination of resources. And the other piece that they're bringing is equipment and the ability to conduct air monitoring. And so what they're going to be looking at is they're going to monitor for what we call VOCs, or volatile organic compounds. They're going to look for sulfur dioxide, and they're going to look for lead. And those are all contaminants that are based upon the profile that was described before, and these are the contaminants that we're going to be primarily concerned about. So depending upon the levels that we see, depending upon how we see that tracking through modeling and so forth, then we'll be able to have a much better idea of, to answer the question, so exactly what is that plume doing and what is the impact. On the water side, as was noted, there was a decision made to pull back on the use of water out of concern for runoff, which very understandable, and that does go a long way towards that. There was some water used, and we also share the concern that nothing is going to be adversely impacting the Rock River. So we do have field staff that will be working with contractors retained by the company to go out to take a look and see if there is any runoff, to conduct some sampling to make sure that we don't have anything getting off-site or anywhere near a potable water supply, so that we're not going to have that kind of concern.
Is the wind going to impact this at all?
Yeah, so the meteorological conditions, or the met conditions, would primarily be the wind and temperature. So what we talked about is when you have cooler temperatures that we're going to get at night, that's going to bring some of that down through what we call a temperature inversion. And that's why you may have a situation where at nighttime, depending upon how cool it gets, there may need to be some additional measures put into place. For example, possibly shelter in place, that kind of thing. And that's obviously all going to be done in a coordinated manner through incident command and unified command. But that's one concern that we would have. And then the wind, both wind direction, the plume going to travel, and if it is, how far is it going to go, and how much is it going to dissipate? How much is it going to break that up? So we'll get them. These are all good questions, and right now we're still gathering the data that we need to get a better answer on that. But we have two monitors that have been set up at the point of the evacuation location. There is one monitor, I believe, on site to address worker safety, and then through US EPA we'll have 16 other monitors that we'll be setting up. And so what we're going to try and do is establish a very quick network so we get a good understanding of what we're looking at, what we're seeing as far as ambient conditions. Do we need to modify any of the protective measures that are being put in place, or are they sufficient so far? And then we'll know that with some measure of confidence.
If this is something that's measured by a meter, how close are we getting to it being at a point where you need to change?
I haven't seen any results yet, and so I couldn't really give you an answer on that.
Last question. Chief, can you tell us what your crews are doing right now as we speak? And
Sure.
also, what's the condition update on the firefighter that did suffer?
There was one firefighter that was sent to the hospital this morning for breathing difficulty. He's been evaluated and been sent home, so he's doing fine. Thank you for asking. As far as the fire operations right now, suppression is still going on, and basically what that means is we're still trying to contain what burning areas of the building are burning, and they are doing very well with that. However, there are some areas that we are letting burn, and those are the areas that have the product. So like I said, what we're really concerned about is water runoff. So that's why we're not dumping a whole lot of water on this.
But there are parts of the building that you are putting.
Yes, yeah, that's correct. So it's a little bit of a struggle right now. Currently, we have about 40 pieces of fire apparatus on scene, and just a little over 150 firefighters that are working this incident. We are working with Illinois MABUS, our mutual aid box alarm system, and we have strike teams and task force set up for a rotation period to rotate firefighters out. So after an 8-hour period, those firefighters will be able to go home, take a break, and be replaced by other firefighters that are brought in. So not every firefighter is there from the beginning of the incident until the end. So that's a big plus for us.
Which could be 2 days from now.
Right now, we can't speculate on how long this is going to take. And again, I ask the community to please just be patient with us, and we are doing the best that we can right now. So.
We don't have a cause yet, do we?
No, currently everything's under investigation, and as soon as we find out a cause and origin, we will definitely share that information with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.